Segment 3, Golden Black Live with Tom Dienhart, about to make the trek. Actually, by the time this airs, he will be in transit to Charlotte and then eventually to Blacksburg as Purdue takes on Virginia Tech on Saturday, tomorrow at noon on ESPN2. Tom, and you've had a chance to look at this game and talk to some Purdue folks this week. Still a big challenge, always a challenge to go there and be able to compete against a team that has been pretty proud in their home stadium. Maybe not as much lately, but it's going to be a big challenge for Purdue come noontime on Saturday.
Yeah, anytime you go on the road, it's always very difficult. And first time this season, Purdue was doing that, obviously. So, yeah, sometimes that's a good thing, though. If you're Purdue coming off that tough home loss, you can kind of circle the wagons and use that old us against the world mentality, and maybe that'll help this team. So again, it's a tall challenge, and I know that Virginia Tech isn't of its usual ilk, but like you said, it's a proud program, and again, like we said, a very tough environment. So Purdue's going to have its work cut out for it.
Yeah, the Inner Sandman Open, there's at least a group that is together. It is, like I said, it's part of that tradition dating back to 2000, and quite the spectacle. In fact, Ryan Walters showed that to the team earlier in the week to kind of get them to expect. That may have an effect for a short period of time, but certainly Purdue just needs to, it's like maybe the old adage, get better from week 1 to week 2. And that's the kind of way you have to look at it based on that 39-35 loss to Fresno State.
Yeah, that's what you'd like to think. You make your most improvement from week 1 to week 2. At least Purdue certainly hopes that. They did some positive things in the opener, of course. But I think the big takeaway is third downs, that they couldn't get off the field on third downs, and they couldn't keep drives going.
Yeah,
they were 2 of 11 on third downs, 18%. And Fresno State clicked at a 65% rate, converting 11 of 17. So that's your ball game in a lot of ways. Purdue went down and scored a touchdown to get the lead. The defense couldn't hold. Fresno State marched right down the field and scored a touchdown with 59 seconds to go. So yeah, they did a lot of good things, like I said, on both sides of the ball, but they've got to get that third down situation buttoned up. I think it's probably your biggest takeaway. And also, I think offensively, that short yardage running.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if that's really going to get better, Alan. I'm not sure how you get better during the season, something like that, unless you try to gimmick it up and scheme it.
Yeah,
but gimmicks and schemes only go so far. You got to have personnel, and I think it's going to be a struggle. It's going to be a slog all year when Purdue gets in 3rd and 1 or 4th and goal, and they have to get that one tough yard, and everybody in the stadium knows they want to run the football.
Yeah. No doubt. You've been watching Purdue football for a long time, and I can't think of many teams over the years that haven't had that trouble. Joe Tiller used to complain about it when Montrell couldn't make 1 yard against Indiana back in 2001. It is what it is, and I think one thing, you look at Ryan Walters and what he brought to the table as Purdue's first game head coach. One good sign is that Purdue did not give up a sack, right? Did not have a turnover, did not have an abundance of penalties. So you could build a case that for that matter, at least with those metrics, the trains ran on time. Now, Purdue didn't defend like it wanted to, as you've well outlined, but you'd have to say, at least from a discipline standpoint, no stupid penalties that I can recall, and really something that will serve you well if you can replicate that in Lane Stadium come Saturday at noon.
Yeah, we'd always see a lot of that, I guess, undisciplined play with Jeff Brom, the penalties, the turnovers. Last week, it was Fresno with 7 penalties and Purdue with 4. And Fresno had the 1 turnover. Purdue had no turnovers. But again, you get back to the third downs, Alan, and that translated into a lot more plays for Fresno State. They ran 82 plays to Purdue 60. And Purdue lost by 4 points. I know one of their touchdowns coming a kickoff return, obviously, but still, if they just get more consistency on third down and sustain some more drives to keep the ball away from Fresno State, if anything else, right? And they were unable to do that. So, you know what, Alan? This was a game I think Purdue had. It was it was right there to be won, right?
Yeah, right.
And they really needed to win it, and they didn't, obviously. So now they're sort of behind the eight ball, and the sense of urgency is even higher this weekend at Virginia Tech. I'm not sure what the latest line is here, Alan, but it's probably about a pick 'em, or maybe Tech's given a point or two. Point is, it's going to be a real close game, just like last week. It probably shapes up to be another fourth quarter game, Alan. Who's going to make those key plays to push their team over the top? I think Purdue needs to ride their playmakers on offense.
Yeah.
Get Devin Mockabee going, man. Feed him the ball. Throw it to Deion Burke 20 times, 15 times, whatever. How many times Purdue would throw to David Bell and Charlie Jones? The targets are out of sight. Feed the ball to your playmakers. So get Burks involved early and often, a lot of different ways. Jet sweeps, quick passes, run him downfield. Get Mockabee going as a runner and a pass catcher. And I'm not sure if Garrett Miller is going to play, but obviously if he was on the field, that's your third playmaker. Those are three pretty good playmakers, I think. And Hudson Card, Allen. I think Hudson Card has to do a little bit more too. I'll be honest with you. He's got to elevate everybody else and then make some special plays to win ball games. That's what special quarterbacks do, right? And as a runner, I think maybe let's see what they do in the run game with Hudson Card. They try to do a little bit more with the RPO if he keeps the ball a few more times. That is going to be interesting to see. I think they got to get him more involved as a runner, Allen. I know you're always risking injury, but man, you can't afford to lose games. So you got to throw caution to the wind. Let these guys play football. Don't worry about injuries and ride them and try to win, because this is a game that if you're Purdue, man, you do not want to come home 0-2. I know you have 3 home games in a row, but to come home 0-2, that's a pretty big hole to try to dig out of for a program that's very much in transition, I think.
Yeah, that line as of Thursday afternoon, 3 points, Virginia Tech, favorite. But you're right. I do think one thing that's interesting, and again, it's hard for us to know. I think I'm a little more certain about what I'm going to see on Saturday than I was last week, but I still don't know. And I would say that I just know, and a little bit I know about Ryan Walters, is he may be good at circling the wagons and he likes a little bit of that us against them. I do think that works well on the road. He's going to have, they're going to try to play it. But I agree with you, Tom. You've got to make plays, and you got to get them off the field, but you got to let your playmakers. And it seems to be with no great analysis, there's 2 of them you just talked about, Hudson Card, Devin Mockabee. Yes, if Garrett Miller gets in the football game, and certainly Deion Burke showed last week, at least in a couple of catches, that he is the game breaker, that potential for that. So you would think on the road that you'll play it a little. You'll go with what things that can work. And if you're Ryan Walters, I would think you'll see more of that. All right, one last thing about Virginia Tech. Grant Wells, obviously, also a transfer quarterback from Marshall.
Yeah.
A bigger guy, very different quarterback. But Purdue really had troubles with Mikey King, though he was terrific last week for Fresno State. We're going to see a different guy this week in Wells. What do you think about the difference? And does that present any opportunities for Purdue's defense in terms of getting a guy that might not be quite as athletic back there? I don't know.
He still may run it, I think, more than Mikey Keene. He's got some good receivers too, Alan.
Yeah, they've really stepped up there, right? Yeah.
I think it's going to be very similar to Fresno State, to be honest with you. Fresno struggled to run the ball last week. Virginia Tech did not run the ball last week against Old Dominion. So I think it's going to be pretty similar. So Purdue should knows what it's getting, I think, here. And can it get off the field, though? That's the key, especially like we said, on third downs. And this guy's maybe not quite as nimble as Mikey Keene, who they sacked 2 times. So maybe Purdue can turn up the heat a little bit more on this guy and bring him down for some negative plays. So, it's going to be very interesting to see, if Purdue tries to do anything too much differently schematically on defense on Saturday. But it's going to be fun to see how this team responds coming off this loss.
Yeah, no doubt. It will be interesting from that standpoint. But for Purdue fans, they'd rather have them, I'm sure, win as opposed to be interesting, but it is going to be a real interesting study from that standpoint. All right, Tom Dienhart returns to Lane Stadium after a few year hiatus, and we're going to hope for an interesting and intriguing game to cover from that standpoint. Safe travels, and we'll look forward to all the great stuff that you'll do on the site, and we'll be talking about that as well. Want to thank our Triple X on the Hill, but on the level of Purdue tradition since 1929. Tom and I need to get down there next week for Wayne Purvis. I think we'll get that done sooner than later. State Farm agent Trent Johnson at trentismyagent.com. Also the Triple X is a great tradition at Purdue. State Farm agent Trent Johnson's a great tradition in this community. We appreciate Trent as well. Thanks to Gordon Jackson and the folks at WLFI for making this happen. If you missed part of this, we'll get the replay up there by about 4 o'clock Eastern as well. Thanks also to Tim Newton and, of course, Dave Shondell for being guest. Always enjoy their conversations and their insight. And we'll look forward to more of the next week. We'll have, I think it's going to have Corey Palm and Mark Herman. Herman will be on the sidelines tomorrow for the Purdue Radio Network to replace Kelly Kitchell, but for the game. So we'll look forward to that. Have a great weekend, everybody. Tom, safe travels, and we'll see you next week on Gold and Black Live.